The only thing I thought while Bilal was speaking is like, this is why they're just going after governments now, right? Like, what's a bigger customer than a government?
Imagine the commission you get from closing that deal.
Ooh, yeah, can you imagine that? That sales rep definitely gets a bong when they get back to the office. Do you remember those little things?
Yeah, they get the gong.
Have you guys ever been in an office where they've done that? Like on a sales floor? Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, it's incredible. All right, welcome to another episode of Not Investment Advice. You got Jack Butcher, Trung Phan, Bilal Zaidi. What's going on, lads? Lots to talk through today. Lots going on. Mary Meeker Internet Trends Report. We've got to break it down. Trung is going to get us going on that. Waymo surpasses Lyft, on track to pass Uber in the next 12 months. Got to pump the bags. Drone tech, we might talk a little bit about. Dyson, HBO, Mountain Head. Let's just see how many of these we get through, boys. So many to get through. But Trung, you also want to talk about PSG winning the Champions League this weekend. Obviously, the Knicks got knocked out in the NBA as well, same day. Had a big day that day. That was like sports overload, boys. Started at 1, finished at like midnight. 2 big sporting events. What did you see, Trung, about PSG? Because you brought it up before we started recording.
So I brought this up because, I'll flag 2 things. We'll do meme of the week because I think you guys will laugh about this. I don't dick about Champions League. I just know that it's a huge event. It's like Super Bowl level. Is it Super Bowl level?
I think so. I mean, it's like the equivalent of the World Cup final, but for club football.
Okay, here's the meme from Matt Turk, semi-friend of the pod. We've exchanged a couple messages. Have you guys see that there? Read that out, Bilal.
There you go now.
Paris Saint-Germain, aka PSG, just scored a historic win in the Champions League. Notably, it happened after the biggest stars, Messi, Mbappe, and Neymar, left the team. Here are 5 lessons for your B2B sales strategy. God's sake. Yeah, that's...
So walk me through that. So PSG, Paris Saint-Germain, the Paris team, had 3 Uber stars, 3 of the biggest stars in the past decade.
Basically the 3 best players in the world at the time.
And they made it to the finals 1 year, right? But they lost.
They didn't win,
COVID.
Yeah.
So
they're owned by Qatar, you know this, yeah? They're owned by the nation
Qatar.
state. Yeah, Qatar, yeah.
So can you walk me through, explain to me how PSG is viewed in the sports world for your side? Like what is the reputation?
The reputation, from my point of view, is they're really rich, obviously, owned by Qatar, but so are other, Man City owned by Abu Dhabi. There's a few nation state teams. Newcastle owned by Saudi, and then you've got like some oil kind of owned clubs, and then you've got like the other regular billionaire clubs, or like sports management companies. Like Arsenal's owned by KSC, the people, Cronkies, the guy that owns was it LA Rams? So they're owned by them.
Like a big billion Walmart family. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So it is actually an interesting thing about PSG. I honestly was really happy for them. Like they're really fun to watch. The manager's amazing. He's got like a really cool story. But also there was this interesting thing where people were talking about like this plucky little team that just won. And it's like, no, they're literally one of the richest teams in the world. They've spent crazy money. Like anyone who wins normally has spent a lot of money, right? And they could afford to spend like 100 million on a player, and it didn't work out. They'll get a replacement. So, but it was a good story overall. But the fan stuff was crazy because they were celebrating.
The match was in Munich.
Yeah.
They win, and
5-0, biggest win in Champions League final ever.
Wipe them.
Yeah.
And then Paris burns. Because that's what fans do. Yeah. That's what I saw. Yeah. I saw 430 arrests. Unfortunately,
that's sad. Yeah, sorry, I don't mean to laugh at that. Yeah, that's not good.
No, it was like, no, we're talking here because I didn't mean to put a wet blanket on this, because the other thing we want to talk about is like sports rioting. Like what I had asked these guys before the show is, how did this riot rank with the crazy stuff I've seen out of England football hooliganism?
Well, Jack, from your point of view, how does this compare to the hooliganism in England from what you've seen?
Well, I don't remember that many examples of like property destruction in this way. There's a lot of idiocy. I mean, there's some funny videos of people like falling through bus stops and stuff like that, but they're not setting cars on fire.
Oh yeah, classic. Yeah. The old
they were climbing up a traffic light. Yeah.
So I shouldn't laugh because it's also
Instagram
ridiculous.
antics. No, funny stuff.
Instagram and
Or like you'll see the people being held upside down, like consuming alcohol, etc. And so there's all sorts of crazy stuff English people do for sure.
I feel like every 2 years there's some video out of France of like people burning stuff, destroying property, just terrible scenes. Am I wrong with that? Like, I don't even know what the
what were they even celebrating
most of the time. It's like any excuse to burn shit.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay. Well, let me jump on that, Jack.
I agree.
Because what I will say is this. Vancouver has a hockey team, the Vancouver Canucks. We've talked about in the past. They've had two very famous riots, like globally famous riots, for like a supposed to be laid back Canadian city on the Pacific Northwest, bunch of hippies smoking weed. That's a reputation. But they lost Game 7 twice in the Stanley Cup Finals, and the city burnt to the ground.
But at least you lost. This was a win. You know that's what's crazy. Well, boy, we talked about on the pod. I was in Paris for when PSG won the semi-final against Arsenal, my team. Yeah. And that night at 70 minutes, the PSG fans turned up outside the pub I was in, and they were like, ready to go. You know what I mean? They were ready to.
Did you feel unsafe?
I'm not gonna lie. I definitely snuck out the door and got the Uber from the side street. I was not trying to.
For real though,
test
right?
anyone's, I don't know what they've been doing all day.
Their fandom.
I will say, obviously, most of the people, I'm sure, just complete peaceful, regular people, and then there's like these ultras or people just going mental. But there were videos, obviously, people burning stuff. A few of the accidents I saw were like people celebrating on scooters, for example, and then having a car accident. Obviously, that I did actually see that the night when I was there, that people were just straight away out beeping, honking, setting off fireworks. Had the flags out, like, just having an amazing time, but just a little, I could see the destruction coming a little bit. Like, I could see where that could escalate potentially.
They needed the Paris 2024 Olympic security. That's what they needed.
There you go.
They needed the 30,000 army people on the streets. But let's use this opportunity to jump into speaking of European and vacuuming, because I'm sure there's a lot of vacuuming yesterday. How's that for a segue?
That was ridiculous. All right. What? You want to talk about Dyson, is it?
You don't think James Dyson built an industrial vacuum to clean cities after riots?
That's what he was all about.
Has he?
Yeah.
Not yet. Next, when he's 92. So what happened with his trunk? Because I saw it on the timeline a little bit.
So, I wanted to, this is why we actually held it. We wanted to ask Jack about this. Well, especially because Jack has, lives in a home, has a even larger family of anyone in this chat.
Lives in a home.
Yeah. No, but I mean, like,
I don't mean like he has a proper house.
Square. Yeah. How many Dyson vacuums do you have?
One, but we upgraded from another one. Gave the in-laws the old one.
But you're staying Dyson.
We got that little robot guy that rips around all the time.
Is it a Dyson robot?
I don't think they make one.
They do.
It's actually like a cheap Amazon one. It's like $120, and it's like the
absolute game changer.
Hardest wearing thing ever. Yeah, it goes. It's still there's bits like snap.
Does your one mop up as well, or is it just vacuum?
I haven't done that yet, but there are mop ones. But this one's like this one's a little base level guy, and he's getting a job done.
Well, actually, Jack, I love you brought that up.
The like lightweight, the Dyson. You pick the lightweight. Actually, no, we do have two. We have a old stand-up one that doesn't get used, and then we got the animal, and that one's, whipping that one out all the time.
No, Jack, I love you brought that up, because I posted the whole context here is that James Dyson, 78 years old. This guy, he's 78 years old, worth $20 billion. He's the richest person in the UK. Or I guess he left, moved. You guys can tell me about that, by the way. I don't. You probably know more about him.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm curious about that, because I've heard he's been run out of the UK and they should be celebrating him, but they're not. I'm curious about that, whether or not that's accurate. But the context is, 10 days ago, he released the world's thinnest vacuum. And I literally just laughed watching this demo. It's an 8-minute demo, which we briefly showed last week. It's the tightest pitch you'll ever see. He just goes in Steve Jobs style and he's like, okay, here's the problem. People get hair stuck in their vacuum. We solved it. Like, problem solved. We figured out how to solve it. I'll quickly show you guys a GIF I did of it, because you'll laugh. This guy, the joke I was making was, here it is. For the listeners, Dyson literally created a way that hair doesn't get stuck in the vacuum anymore. So if you ever vacuumed, it's insane, right? But what's funny about this is no one in the world is more obsessed with a single thing than James Dyson is with cleaning dirt from various home surfaces. Like, this guy has spent over 50 years perfecting the vacuum. And
his Ikigai chart must be funny as hell,
it's
man.
Unbelievable, right? 50 years. And famously, as you know, friend of the pod, David Senra has done, he says James Dyson is his favorite entrepreneur. And every 50th episode, David goes back and does another Dyson episode. It's incredible. And the whole famous thing about Dyson was about his mid-30s, he's like, I'm going to figure out this vacuum game, this situation. He spends 15 years, does over 5,000 prototypes. So every prototype, he'd count changing the lever an inch as a different prototype. But you get the point, right? He's changing all the variables to perfect this technology, where his whole point was in the 70s, Hoover, you guys remember those stupid Hoover vacuums with a bag? Useless, right? And he's just we're going to make a bagless vacuum. He looked at the cyclone technology in sawmills, and they saw the cyclone power for the Air Force. Anyways, the whole point I bring that up is this guy spends 50 years perfecting the vacuum, 78 years old, right? So he's made, and the joke in my home, and I think this happens to a lot of people's homes, is a lot of this is just kind of Brandon's story at this point. So happy to get both guys' thoughts on this. My wife has the hair dryer, the hair straightener, the air purifier, the fan, the second fan for another room, the heater. This shit just started piling in my house. One day I came home and I saw a second Dyson fan. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? Why is Dyson making fans and why am I paying for this? Because I know I'm paying premium. And my wife just comes over top. She's like, do you do any cleaning in the house? I say no. She's like, shut the fuck up. You're out. I'm buying Dyson.
There you go.
Yeah.
Fair enough.
So I'm curious, as your guys' thought, and I'll give you a little competitive landscape. What's his reputation in England? Did you guys know about him growing up? And any other thoughts about him leaving England in general? So I'll throw the ball in your court.
Dyson HQ was 15 miles from where I grew up. Malmesbury, boys.
Dude,
did you also have a student job at Dyson, Jack?
Yeah.
I feel like it could be.
I wish so. I wish.
Was
you know what? I wish I had the.
Was that a sought
I'm
after
sure
job?
it was. I mean, I'm sure it was. I wasn't I wasn't interested in it then as I would have been now. Or if I was growing up, knowing what I know now, I probably would have tried to get involved in that somehow. But I think they were even making them in Wiltshire, which is the county I grew up in, up until early 2000s, and now they're tariffed out, mate, somewhere else. But they were making them down the road in Wiltshire
Singapore.
up until I think early 2000s.
Tariffed out somewhere else.
Singapore and Malaysia is where they are now. But so I'm curious.
There you go, mate. Another great British company stripped, gutted, pillaged, and outsourced.
Well, let me ask then, is this the fault of the British government or the entrepreneur? Is it the business environment? What's going on here?
Yeah. You can't attribute one thing, but I do think this is not something that has been exclusive to Dyson. There's a ton of automotive industry. There's even in that little area where I grew up, there was a Honda factory there that I worked at for a little while that was churning out 5,000 cars a day. It's not there anymore. I think the incentives are probably not great for producing objects of that kind, and the workforce is probably hard to come by too. So I think it's a little bit from both ends of the spectrum. But I think they still do it's like the Apple thing, right? Designed in California, assembled in China. They still do all of the research and development and product stuff in England, and then they ship the rest out to be manufactured elsewhere. And I think that's, I don't know, that a lot of short-term thinking involved across a lot of different industries in that regard, and doesn't seem like it's changing, right? It seems like at least in the short term that's going to stay the case. It's hard to spin that stuff up. It takes a long time to get that level of manufacturing apparatus and people and all that stuff, and it's hard to hire them.
Do you know?
To lose that is devastating.
Jack, have you heard much of, or either of you, but specifically Jack, because from the UK, about the whole why people are leaving? Not just that, specifically with the tax for like wealthy people. A lot of people are leaving. Obviously, we had George Mack on, and we talked about the exodus of millionaires, but I'm talking about the, not just regular millionaires, like a lot more people leaving. I don't know. Honestly, I haven't really looked into it too much. I did speak to a couple people when I was back who had quite wealthy families, and they had explained that some of them were leaving because of like certain tax implications. But we didn't like have time to go into. Do you know much about
economics, isn't it, man?
Gary's economics, exactly. Don't exist, mate. Exactly.
What's Gary's economics?
That's that guy, Gary Stevenson, who we've referenced on the pod a few times. He was doing the rounds in the UK promoting the book that he had.
Yeah,
but yeah, he kind of became a bit of a meme of kind of tax the rich was his message. So, but yeah, do you know much about this? I haven't really looked into it too much, but.
Just the reasons for it,
or like what has changed that people have that they feel like
I don't even think it might be just that nothing's changed. It might be this nothing's changed, and then all of these competitive places are like, yeah, come here and you can like build industry here, and we're not gonna make it prohibitively costly to grow a business. And if this is you guys read The Sovereign Individual, go back like all the way to like in the 90s, people are writing about this, where it's like the world gets more connected, and then governments actually have to compete. Like you're offering a product to people, and if your product isn't worth 50% of your income, 40% of your income, you have the most optionality in the world because you have resources. You could just move, and like the idea that I don't know that the idea that people are the idea that some sort of nostalgia or allegiance to the country itself will keep people there, I think is true to some degree, but if you're like pushing uphill at a rate that is impossible to compete because your competition is still global, right?
Yeah.
The tax rate on a company is like, it's prohibitive to survive at a certain point, depending on what you make. Like I'm sure making cars in the UK is impossible to do profitably at this point. And that's
just mad because so many iconic car brands come
incredible,
from there, right?
I mean, I think even the rate of like output and innovation and quality of creative work out of that place is unbelievable on per capita basis.
Yeah.
But the environment to do business is, and there's a lot of conversation around this the last few years, is just there's plenty of places that I don't know, make it less the administrative burden to even run like a simple company is so high in the UK
compared
like,
to
By the way, forms you got to fill out to freelance or something, like it's just bonkers, right? It's like it really has like incredible downstream effects, even to the point where nobody pursues it in the first place, doesn't learn anything. It's the reason why I really had no idea what entrepreneurship was until I was 25 years old. Like, why didn't I not know that? And that's not true for everybody. Bilal's out there shipping bling bling king.
Jesus Christ.
Well, immigrant hustle.
There you go.
Exactly.
By the way, boys, I do want to add before because there was a big change which now is ringing some bells. Is the abolition of non-dom status? Does that ring a bell?
What does that mean?
So the long-standing non-dom regime, which allowed UK residents to avoid paying UK tax on foreign income, has been abolished. I think as of it's effective April 2025. That's why so much has happened since then. So all UK residents are now taxed on their worldwide income after a 4-year grace period for new arrivals. Additionally, offshore trusts are now subject to UK inheritance tax, removing previous protections for foreign-held assets. That makes sense now.
So hold on. So that means Dyson was exposed to all that global revenue.
Exactly. Yeah. And to be fair, that is already the case. I'm pretty sure in the US, like if you're I'm about to become a citizen here, even on a green card, you have to pay global tax. Like if I have property in the UK or something and I get income, I need to pay tax on that here. But I think this was like a big change. I don't know if that's apples to apples comparison, but I think this was almost also famous because I think Rishi Sunak, the Prime Minister, at some point was non-dom status, and he had to get rid of that because his wife is obviously, has a lot of wealth from her family's business in India. So that was one. And then the second big thing was there were inheritance tax reforms. So we don't have to go into details of that, but there were changes there. So that makes a lot of sense for the conversation I had with the person I'm thinking of. Their family would be directly impacted by that. So they had to make a decision, like, do we just eat the cost here? Do we like value it enough to stay here? Or do we, find a way around this and come back and visit for a few months a year or something like that? So that's kind of, I think that's the big change why a lot of people. So Trung, for Dyson specifically, what has happened with him? Are you saying he left recently or did he leave a long time ago?
He left in 2016, 2017 to Singapore.
Got it.
Ostensibly, part of it was that he wanted to create an EV. So he's had a lot of L's, right? Like his new,
electric vehicle. He wanted to make electric cars.
And crazy. Well, here's the thing, dude. This is the thing about Dyson that is so funny, right? Which I wanted to bring it up. This guy basically he took that airflow technology, which is essentially his entire career has been miniaturizing airflow technology. So if you watch, again, people can just go to Dyson YouTube. It'll be probably one of the most recent ones, maybe second or third. This 8-minute demo of this product. He basically took a motor. Jack will appreciate this as a car guy. The motor for the Dyson fan, the Dyson vacuum spins at 140,000 RPM. An F1 race car does 16,000 RPM. This is 10 times stronger than an F1 race car. And they miniaturized it to the size of, in the video he's in Tokyo, of a yen coin. So think about a quarter, basically. Dude, so like, this guy's entire life is taking airflow technology, miniaturizing it, and cleaning dirt. I want you to think about that guy's life, right?
He's locked in,
He took
man.
that technology, took it to whatever, everything we mentioned, fans, air purifiers, hair dryer, air straightener, wherever you could put that technology in. He's had a couple flops. So one big flop was washer and dryer. He would try to do wash and dryer. He was on the Tim Ferriss podcast, really good episode, by the way. So I'll flag that one also. That he said he undercharged for the washer and dryer. So what? Let me finish up on a couple more products of his, and I'll ask you guys what you guys view the brand as. Is it worthwhile of the premium that you're clearly paying for like a $500 vacuum versus whatever? Jack's talking about these robo vacuums from Amazon that are $100. They're doing 80% of the job, right? So the other thing, the EV, Bilal, he spent $500 million on an EV. 500 mil. For an EV, that's not a lot of money to develop an EV.
Under Dyson, the same company,
under
or
the
separate?
Dyson brand.
Wow.
And then he moved to Singapore because, to Jack's point, probably much lower bureaucratic red tape, but also you get the Asia supply chain. He wanted to make a luxury EV and basically threw in the towel after $500 million. Think about that. I think he's taken out, though, $1 billion a year from the business in dividends. He owns 100% of the business. It owns 100% of the business.
That's incredible.
There's about 10 bill a year, in rev. So his net worth is about 20, 30 bill. But anyways, take that away. He also made a ridiculous air purifier mask. I'll show you this, guys. You guys will laugh. During COVID.
It wasn't before, or something.
Yeah, if you guys remember this, you're gonna shit your pants, man. This is when you jump the shark. I'm just like, yo, Dyson, pump the brakes, bro. Like you guys, it's like, bro, I get it, you're rich and you have $1 billion a year in dividends to F around, but what is this? Look at this.
Yeah, it's not great.
He made
that's incredible. Look at that.
With the air purifier mask. Okay, so let me jump to you guys quickly before we wrap up the Dyson stuff. As a brand, what do you guys perceive it? Does it feel luxury? Thoughts?
Dyson?
Yeah.
Yeah, I think so, but it's like so pervasive. It's like luxury in the same way Apple is, You wouldn't put it with like luxury
Old matey.
because of its like scarcity, but it is multiples more expensive than its
Maybe
competition
premium.
in every
Is premium
category,
a better
right?
word, Jack, versus
Yeah.
luxury? Because it's
Yeah.
like the premium version of like a regular vacuum versus luxury to me feels like a little bit more upper echelon.
There's
sort of
nothing
vibe.
luxury about doing hoovering, mate.
Yeah, if you like luxury, you got someone doing it for you.
Literally. If you're the luxury is paying somebody $50,000 a year that just vacuums your house for you, right? That's the
There we go.
luxury. Well, actually, let me read a line for you to your exact point, Jack. This was one of the lessons that Dyson's imparted to Tim Ferriss. This is why he said he got into the vacuum game. This is exactly what you pointed out. He says, I really noticed that the existing vacuum manufacturers weren't interested in changing this technology. They wanted to stick with what they had. It's what I call a commodity product. It's not a very exciting product. They're not skis or surfboards. But then he says this, if the vacuum doesn't work properly, your life is not as pleasant. I saw it as a very important thing. It's a mundane product, but it's a very important product. And that's why I want to make it better. So think about that, people.
Respect.
Any product
boys,
have a luxury option. Premium.
I just looked up the wire cutter best vacuum cleaner.
Ooh.
Dyson's not even in the top 10.
What?
That's
Wow.
mad.
Yeah. So I feel like people caught them up, but the brand is very strong to the point.
Does that
where
say
people
more
still-
about wire
me-
cutter or Dyson? That's another
That's a great
question.
point.
I don't know. It's a good question. It's these shark ones. Have you heard of this?
Yeah, they're like Shark,
Shark.
but where is that Chinese? Shark manufacturer. Wow. Dyson doesn't
Things
even
I never
make
thought
companies.
we'd talk about on the podcast.
A philosophical question there, and they're all Chinese, mate.
Yeah, yeah.
There you go. There you go.
All the parts are coming from China.
Yeah, they always shine. There you go.
No, this one $200, man. This is like maybe this is cost-based analysis here, as it should be, but $200, mate. That's a lot less than the Dyson is commanding, even
I do
with that
remember when
Costco membership discount.
There you go. But I do remember, Trung, to your point, when it came out, it was a big deal because what you said there about Hoover being the standard, so
Yep.
much that I don't know if you guys did it in North America, but for us, it was like you say you're doing the Hoover. You're like, my mum is on my back, like, do the Hoover.
Oh, they
I
earn
don't,
like
you don't,
the Google.
yeah, it was the verb. Yeah,
Kleenex.
it was the verb.
It's like Ubering, yeah. I'm Hoovering up, yeah.
Yeah, I'm Hoovering. I think I still say that.
That's a great
now.
name, by the way. Hoover.
Hoover.
Incredible name.
Great, no.
Yeah.
So the
Dysoning
summary
up.
then. The
Not
But
Dyson.
Dyson.
to become a dominant player in a field where you're the verb, that is actually quite impressive. And I remember it being that much of an upgrade that you're like, oh, we finally got the Dyson. You don't have those annoying bags. It's just all in there. You throw it out. That was a big deal.
I will give you one last anecdote to wrap up the Dyson story about university when I knew that Dyson had overcome the Hoover brand. I had a buddy who was, he enjoyed the Colombian marching powder. He enjoyed the devil's dust.
The marching powder's ridiculous.
All right. If you're a listener and you don't know what I'm
Your
referring
friend,
to, just
okay, the
ask
flower
OpenAI.
shirt guy.
Yeah, the devil's dust. All right, you figure that out. What the devil's dust mean? We used to say, friend X was Dysoning up the devil's dust last night. So there you go. That's when I knew
Jesus Christ.
that Dyson had
It
achieved
really did it, yeah.
status.
There's no bag involved this time. Or was there?
Exactly,
There
yeah.
you go.
Well, there was a bag, but the bag was thrown in the garbage. Sure, a small bag, a tiny bag, if you will, one that fits into the fifth jean pocket, if you will. All right.
There we go. There we go. Exactly. All right. So great chance to move on to the next topic there after Trung talked about his flower
The
shirt
devil's
antics.
dust.
But there we
Yeah.
go. So
Not
Dyson,
me, bro. Get out of here. Not
friend
me, my
of
friend.
a friend of Trung. Here we go.
Yeah.
Yeah. So where should we go next? Maybe we should talk Mary Meeker because I feel like that is quite an important thing that comes up every year. It's every year she
Well,
drops it,
this
right?
is why it's extra important. She's taken a 6-year break.
Has it been that long?
Yeah, dude.
I thought we did it on the pod at some point.
No,
I
that
remember
was
it used to be a thing at work. Every time it came out, you gotta, read through it and start sharing it as your own insights, basically.
Exactly. That's why it became a big thing this year. She took 6 years off, but since 2019, something's happening in the technology industry. What's happened, boys? What's been going on other than crypto? What's been going on?
If you're in crypto, pivot to AI. That's what happened.
Yeah.
There you go.
So she dropped
Amen.
340 slides, and I'm just gonna power through some of these. And let me even
One
know if you
by
guys can
one.
see
Deep,
this.
one deep research query.
Seriously, yeah.
No, but here it is. Did you guys see this?
Make
You guys
no
read it?
mistakes.
Is it legible?
Yeah, looks good.
Yes, sir.
But
All right.
most people are listening, so let's describe what's on the
Yeah, I'll
screen.
describe it. So I pulled out 20. I tried to get some viral. Jack, you're shaking your head. What do you see here? Can you just read it out to the
Oh, it's
listeners?
just insane, man, to see
Yeah.
it depicted like that. Yeah.
It's
Years to reach
insane.
100 million users. Netflix took 10 years. That's the slowest. ChatGPT took 0.2 years. So what's that? 3 months?
Fifth, yeah, 3
Less
months.
than, 2.5 months.
Okay, I love that Jack pointed this out. The basically the thesis of her report is there's never been a company like OpenAI. It's like this is like unheard of, and she lays that against the context of the adoption of generative AI. Even though people are still like, oh, what's the use case? What's the killer use case, right? You know that whole thing about they're burning trillions of dollars and like where's economic value? Great point. That is a great point. I can tell you right now, after reading her report, she also asked that. But here's the reality. Whether or not these companies make back their $1 trillion spend, I don't give a shit. Because we're going to be left with $1 trillion of NVIDIA chips, and that's intelligence for everyone. I mean, dead serious, right? The customers are winning here. That's the whole point. And it's the same with the telecom spend at the end of the 1990s. The telecom spent $1 trillion laying fiber and cable. Guess what happened? A lot of them blew up. But guess what happened after? Internet, right? We won. So whatever happens here, that was my takeaway from this deck. I think that's the point she's trying to make. So Jack nailed the first one. Why don't I just do this? I'll ask Bilal to kind of read through the second one, and we can talk about the points. All right. So the first one is ChatGPT as a proxy for generative AI. 3 months versus 10 years from Netflix to get to 100 million users. TikTok took a year. Fortnite took a year. Instagram took 3 years. Whatever. Things are faster now, obviously, because of mobile deployment, right? You obviously have to hedge that, but that's just table stakes now. The point is
how many internet users have been added in the last 10 years? It's double.
That's a good point. Yeah.
No, that billions, right? So here, let's jump to the next point. Here's Bilal. Why don't you read the headline?
AI global adoption. ChatGPT is a foundational indicator. Have not seen the likes of this around the world spread before.
Yeah.
Internet
So what she's saying is that
written
90% of ChatGPT is outside of North America. That took 3 years.
Wow.
It took 23 years for the internet to achieve that. Again,
Crazy,
right? How global this is. And that's also why, you lay the internet, you lay the mobile. It's super interesting deck. Here's another one. Jack, go nuts.
Time to 365 billion annual searches. ChatGPT did it in, what is that axis? Years?
5.5 times faster.
2 years.
2 years, and it took Google 11 years.
Just insane, right? All right, Bilal, you go.
AI user job. Sorry, this feels like a test.
We have 340 of these left to go.
All right, no.
Just call out the
They're
ones you want to call out.
I'm just joking.
No, they're great. They're great.
I'm saying we're doing a quadruple record.
It feels like we're going to get quizzed at the end.
Yeah, no. Here, I'll pull 3 for you guys that you just for you guys just to take this one in. This is insane. NVIDIA. So against that backdrop of the usage, NVIDIA has obviously been the biggest winner. But let me hammer home what NVIDIA's actually done by her stats. 28 times revenue in the past 10 years. They're doing 150 bill revenue now. On top of the CAPEX spend of all the big tech firms, 500 bill a year.
CAPEX.
Yeah, CAPEX. Look at this one. The performance of NVIDIA chips based on energy usage and flops, which is basically intelligence, has gone up 225 times in 8 years.
That's insane, right?
It's insane, right?
That's crazy.
Yeah. Here are 2 more you guys will appreciate. The deployment of NVIDIA chips as a proxy for compute is up 100 times in the past 6 years. 100 times.
Explain that one, Trung. What does that mean?
That's basically how many more chips have been deployed. If you take a rack of NVIDIA chips as a form of intelligence, the deployment of that is up 100 times in 6 years. And this one blew my balls
Crazy.
off.
How are they even making them that fast? Go back to that one.
Dude, it's insane.
Also,
TMSC,
man, we didn't talk about last week. They smashed the numbers again, didn't they?
They smashed it even with the China bans on their chips. And here's a crazy one. This one we'll settle on this one. Talk about this. The cost of to deploy these chips has gone down 99.7%. The cost per token has gone down 99.7% in the last 5 years, while the performance has increased exponentially. So just think about that, man. 99.7% the cost of a token. And then the very last one I'll give you guys.
Trung, on that point, I've got one because Stanford had this AI report. I sent it in the group chat, but specifically, that's 5 years, even the last 18 months. So it's like a year and a half. It's down 280-fold.
The cost.
So it went from November 2022, $20 million, $20 per million tokens. It went from $20 per million tokens to 7 cents per million tokens in October 2024. Dude. So that was 6 months ago or 7 months ago.
Let me drop this. Let me give the context that we just said. The growth of generative AI, notwithstanding people saying, how are you going to get your returns? I don't care, frankly. It doesn't matter to me. I know the intelligence is there. We're going to benefit from it. The CapEx build out, Bilal's laughing. And then I'll end with a chart from the 340 slides that this is the last one, I promise, that Bilal had sent to the group. And people are asking, what is the benefit to all this? What are we going to get from it? Frankly, there is a real world use case, right? It's happened. Here it is, Bilal's slide. Bilal, read it. What is this? What does this say?
Oh, did I say? Oh, yeah, I did send this. Yeah. Physical world AI, fully autonomous vehicles, Waymo, 0 to 27% share of San Francisco ride shares over 20 months per Yipit data. But
Jack
the key thing is like on the far right. So people listening, you can just see from 8/23. What year is that? I can't see the bottom.
August 2023. So
2023, sorry, yeah. So basically, Waymo has taken over Lyft's share, and this is San Francisco, right? So they now have more rides.
Driving.
Yeah. So driverless cars, it's not like this thing, in the future we're going to have driverless cars. It's already in San Francisco, it's gone to 27% share, and they're on course to beat Uber in 12 months, their market share.
Insane.
Good for Bilal's bags right there.
There you go. Exactly.
So I'll leave it with this. Tesla is about to announce its autopilot, a robo-taxi. So smartly, it's actually launching wherever Waymo's already done, because that user behavior has already been built in, right? Like people in Austin and San Francisco are used to that. Look at the Tesla cumulative full self-driving miles of Tesla in the past 3 years. It's up 100 times. So the TLDR of this entire thing is there's all this spend. We're still asking what are the benefits. It's clear there are some benefits. And I'll end it with this, which is in a slide, but what she kind of capped it off with. This isn't to say that we're going to get the same outcome, but she's like, listen, historically, there's been some extremely CapEx heavy companies. And Amazon, for the first 27 quarters of existence in the late 90s, it lost $3 billion, okay? In the last 27 quarters, so call that last 2 years, its cumulative net income, last 7 years is 180 billion. So listen, you eat shit for a long time and you build the infrastructure and maybe you have a little bit of monopoly characteristics, if we're being frank. $100 billion in net income for Amazon in the past 8 years. Its first 8 years lost $3 billion. Tesla, all right, what did Tesla do? It burnt $9 billion between 2009, 2018. It made $40 billion in the last 5 years. So that's the perspective that she's trying to give. These big tech companies are burning money hand over fist on a scale that dwarfs these numbers. But if you go fully agentic, fully intelligence world, what do you come out on the other side? So anyways, we'll find out. But incredible stuff. Any thoughts, boys?
The only thing I'd say is I'm 100% on the same page as you. I kind of agree that either way, we're all winning. Like when I'm paying $20 a month for what I'm getting right now with OpenAI, like ChatGPT Plus or whatever it's called, premium or whatever, I'm like, this is worth so much more than $20 to me, right? Like it's the economics 101, like the, consumer surplus is called, right? Like I'd be willing to pay more than that. I probably am not willing yet to pay the $200 because I don't really need it that much. Like there's a $200 tier. But for someone who's using it all day for work and is saving them, basically hiring a freelancer to do the work for them or whatever, it's definitely worth that. Now, the only thing I would say compared to Amazon, that example, because Amazon had this like physical infrastructure and its physical goods, I'm trying to think out loud here if that is as comparable to the software side of things where everything is one tab away, one app away, one search away.
Oh, like can a company capture?
Yeah, specifically for OpenAI, I'm saying.
Yeah.
Now, like they're leading away and I'm paying them, not anyone else really. But that is a little bit different. Like it's a lot more competitive in a way. You know, if you look at Gemini, Grok, like all the different players there, I guess the question is like, will the value truly accrue to OpenAI more than it already has right now? They're like a $300 billion company versus like, actually, are we like under invested in other, I'm thinking of like from an investor's hat sort of point of view. The other ones also might have a lot more upside given, you know, the distribution that Google, Microsoft, all those guys have as well. But yeah, so that's the only thing I'd say. But will we ever accrue the value that's been invested? I agree. I think we will eventually, especially as consumers. I think we're already getting it.
We already getting, yeah.
And most people aren't using that yet, you know?
Well, the companies, maybe not. But again, I don't care. Like, it doesn't matter to me, right?
Yeah,
and it shouldn't matter to most people. Unless you have bags in these companies. Unless your bags are in NVIDIA, you might care a little bit. But Jack.
Good point.
Any thoughts?
The only thing I thought while Bilal was speaking is like, this is why they're just going after governments now, right? As customers, like how do you
That's a good point.
capture the most ridiculous recurring, like what's a bigger customer than a government, and how many people are actually going to use it relative to what they pay for? It feels like that is, you know, if this thing becomes so ubiquitous that it's like a portion of tax revenue for some of these governments, then you could see it balancing out what they make. It's not trivial at that point if you're not selling to consumers one at a time.
Well, to your point, Jack, we kind of talked about this briefly. Bilal also sent this, I think, in our group chat.
Yeah, I was going to say
country
the UAE
gave
thing,
away
right? UAE, so UAE is giving every citizen free Chat GPT Plus. So yeah, really smart. I mean, if you just think
what's
of
that deal
like,
worth? Did it say?
It doesn't say, but we could probably do back of the napkin.
Yeah.
Math. What's the population of UAE? Yeah, I don't know. That it says roughly 10 million. Let's say it's even like 8 million, 5 million, whatever. That's a lot of people. That's the one-to-many approach of selling. There you go, boys.
Yep.
That's a smart deal. And also from UAE point of view, you know, like how much utility they're giving their citizens, like by doing that for them. How much, like even from a purely selfish point of view for a government, it's like the productivity growth is already good, but also just the well-being, like all the things that you get out of it is smart.
Imagine the commission you get from closing that deal.
Yeah, can you imagine that? That sales rep definitely gets a bong when they get back to the office. Do you remember those little things?
Yeah, they get the gong.
Have you guys ever been in an office where they've done that? Like on a sales floor? Oh my God, yeah. Oh my God, it's incredible. There's one guy I remember real quick, the most American guy, I don't want to say his name, but his kids were called Truman and Kennedy. So it would just give you a sense. In the London office, this guy literally had on his desk, he had a Post-it note on right in front of him. It said like $1 million. And it was like, he was the biggest sales guy I'd ever met in my life. He loved it so much. And every time they made a big deal, he'd go over to the gong and like just smash the gong, bro. It was so funny.
Those guys are unbelievable.
Boiler room sort of vibes.
You know what we need to do quickly? We didn't talk about it yet, but it's worth talking about. It's about this UAE Saudi Arabia deal with the data centers. Because it's to Jack's point. Jack said, wait till you get the government. Like we joked about ChatGPT getting a login for every UAE citizen. That's just peanuts compared to the $600 billion deal that Jack's kind of, the sovereign AI, right? Like Jack, remember how I said every country wants to ultimately probably want to control the infrastructure for AI within their own borders. I mean, so the big controversy, we didn't talk about, this might have been the biggest AI news in the past year, was the Trump administration agreeing to allow hundreds of thousands of NVIDIA chips to be shipped to Saudi Arabia and UAE to build data centers. What effectively happened is they're creating a third AI node outside of America and China. Huge risks involved. Like the controversy over this deal, which AI czar David Sachs has had to address a number of times. I'll give you guys both sides. Give me your knee-jerk reaction. So basically, the US government is allowing the top-end NVIDIA chips to be built in data centers in the UAE and Saudi Arabia. The argument is you would rather have the Middle East on an all-American AI stack versus an all-China stack. Because no matter what, these countries will spend money to build themselves a stack. A, because they're trying to diversify outside of oil. B, they have the money, right? And C, they have the benefit of energy grids that can support these data centers. So they have so much capital and so much energy, which are the two main things for the AI race right now in terms of the data centers. So America made the bet that we'll empower our current allies to become a third node. We'll lock them into our system, and this will how we outcompete China. The contra is, okay, well, how do you ensure that these countries are not just giving this compute away to China, right? How do you ensure, or nation states that are not aligned with America, how can you ensure that they don't actually just end up getting all the leverage? The second half of the 20th century was about America protecting the Middle Eastern oil lanes, right? And how disruptive it could be if the Middle Eastern countries decided, as the 1973 oil shock showed, that they didn't want to pump anymore. So you're giving these countries leverage over America if you actually don't have full controls on these data centers, which ostensibly they're going to be controlled by the big tech companies. Some of it will be for G42, which is a Middle Eastern UAE Microsoft kind of collaboration. So that's the question. So I'm curious at your guys' part, because this thing is quite controversial, and basically allowing the Middle East to become the third key player just from a pure infrastructure side. So what did you guys think of just kind of the outlay? How would you view that in terms of strategic, or what's the decision? Or is it inevitable?
Jack, any thoughts, or I can share?
I don't have anything specific. I was just I have a probably rookie question on this, but the main supplier or producer of hardware in China is who? Some domestic chip maker. Huawei.
Yeah.
And they don't sell outside of China, their chips.
Well, they do. Well, the question is, they can, but they haven't brought it up to scale yet. Like, they're trying to catch up to NVIDIA. And this is a great question, by the way, because Huawei historically was the 5G champion. They basically deployed 5G across Latin America, Africa, and a lot of nations in the West now are trying to pull their 5G equipment out, right? Like Ericsson, obviously European competitor in that space, was a leader. Huawei, in China industrial policy, where government gave them cheap loans, lots of land, and just said, do whatever it takes to become the leader in this category. We don't give a shit. Sell at a loss. And to your point, Jack, is the competitive pressures, like, do we just make sure that Huawei doesn't get that demand, right? The $600 billion of AI demand to pull, like, they'll be able to serve China for sure. But if you're giving them the rest of the world, that's a risk. You know the key point.
Yeah, it feels like it's going to happen, so it may as well be you, right? There's the game theory.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I think the only thing to add, I don't have too much opinion except for if it's a strategic thing for the US to have the massive pile of money that is in the Middle East be going towards US manufacturers or US chips essentially, then them being on the Chinese stack is kind of the main point there. So I don't know much more about it, to be honest, but I kind of get the logic from that point of view. I did hear the David Sachs thing, him talking about it, so that I kind of agreed with that point, but yeah, not much more to add.
Yeah, no, it was great. We can probably wrap on that then, because Inside Baseball, we're doing double record, people. Trying to give you a little bit of everything. He'll start with PSG, end with the Middle Eastern. We bookended it.
There we go. Yeah. Maybe
done.
That's the sign. We're in new times, man. There we go. All right, boys. Great chat. In fact, I hope you guys enjoyed that, and we'll see you guys next week. Cheers. Bye-bye.